How much money have you got?
Wow.
So everything you've ever saved is in here now?
No, it is, yeah.
Come on.
You immediately know there's a front door and a back door. This wall is the problem.
I wouldn't say we've got a massive amount of money.
So it needs doing double quick.
The idea of Timothy having invested her life savings in something that is now going to just fall apart fills me with horror.
Piers has basically just come and suggested ripping out a wall that I've just put in.
The design of that is as important as the design of the house.
In she goes. Cooked at 300 degrees C for approximately 4 minutes. In the area that I want to live, it's quite difficult to find a house, and it's just to have my own space. And it's something that most people would like to try and do, and I just thought it was the right time and went ahead with it, really.
It's our savings and our pension. It wasn't easily lent to him.
We have a promise he'll pay us back so that our pension fund is back to where it was.
What made you want to build your own house in the first place?
Obviously, the age I am, I don't really have many dependents, so I thought if I'm going to do it, I might as well do it now.
Yeah.
It's going to be hopefully a family home in the future. Yeah. I mean, I'm not really thinking about that as yet, but I didn't want to just build a small house where I wanted to, you know, if I had a family that I'm going to move out in 2 or 3 years.
Are you going to get your hands dirty? What's the idea?
Yeah, I'm
here?
hoping to do as much as I possibly can, because if I subcontracted the whole build out, you know, there's no way I could afford it. I'm just going to crack on and just try it.
It feels like plasterboard city, you know, and that is a problem. And one wonders, given that he's a kind of young 29-year-old guy, why he can't do something a bit more dynamic with, you know, some other more interesting modern materials. Living there by himself, you could just take this wall out and perhaps, you know, reconfigure this to be one big bedroom. It would be a better building and a cheaper building.
Come on, baby. If I was doing anything more complicated, I'd want to be able to check that I was doing it right, but I'm pretty confident in what I'm doing. It's only mixing a bit of concrete and flattening it out a bit. I'm really excited now to see the panels here, how good they look. I'll be able to see how the rooms feel. It's going to be good. Seeing it up here now, it is quite big. My parents are not wealthy people. I don't like asking for the money. I'll be borrowing the vast majority of the 100,000 off them, so hopefully they won't be struggling.
How the hell is he going to do this? It's 4 times the size of an average semi-detached house. All I see is pound signs. Doors are expensive and walls are expensive, and there's a lot of both of those here. Hi, Martin.
Cheers, pleased to meet you.
How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks, good. I had in my head that obviously that I would be doing a lot of plasterboarding and conventional finishes.
You know, if you took this wall out, which I think is a no-brainer, you can imagine having a bed there, be able to lie in bed and see right the way down past these houses to that amazing view beyond. If it was me, I think I'd put my bath right here behind a sliding screen that you could sit in the bath with a beer at the end of the day looking right the way down there. How about you do that?
Kinky. I suppose I'd have to waterproof the floor and...
Not necessarily, I mean,
I'm quite
you know.
messy in the bath, though.
Are you?
Yeah. all over the show.
There's still this mindset that's incredibly difficult to get out of, that houses have ordinary walls, ordinary doors, ordinary skirtings, ordinary finishes like paint and things like that. But I think in this country, that's why we lag behind the rest of the world in doing unusual buildings.
There are lots of memories associated with the house. It was a fantastic home and I loved it dearly.
It'll be a little bit sadness, I suppose. We've lived here for 20 years, brought up our children, but it's like an old car, you know. When it's finished, it's finished. What do you think of our design?
I'm slightly surprised that a couple so aware of, you know, farming and the landscape out here and the kind of traditional building out here would build something so different from what traditional buildings are in this area.
I love the look of it. I think it's because we've been farming all our lives. I don't want to be in a building that could, for any instant, be mistaken that it was an old farm building.
Right.
Farmhouse, fine. Old farm building, no.
Material is such an important thing in a kind of agricultural context. So what is this material? What's it clad in?
The product they want to use is a kind of treated timber that will never age.
Yes, this looks slightly to me like a kind of business party building. You know, it doesn't have anything that's actually true to that place.
I'm glad they know what they're doing.
You either pay £7 and you stand back and watch somebody do everything, or you have a bit of hassle and you do it yourself. So we do it ourselves, because I'm tight.
This is the time to go and talk about cladding, because my worry is that they will go out, they will order some horrible plasticized wood, and before I know it, that'll arrive on site and clad this building. That stuff is designed not to age, so it'll sit forever on the hilltop looking like a plastic shed. I need to make sure that isn't going to happen.
There's a lot of people from day one who've told us how to build this place and what we should do. Some we've listened to and some we haven't.
Hi, Tony.
Right, Piers?
How you doing?
No, not so bad.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a bit like a noddy house, though, isn't it? It's a bit red. It's a bit.
It looks enormous. So this is your front door?
No.
That isn't a door, that's a long window.
full-length window.
No.
We've put the door. That is the front door.
That's the front door
corner.
around the corner?
Yeah.
Excuse me, that's a utility room door. The front door
sorry.
is there.
Sorry,
Jack.
sorry. I stand
The
corrected.
proper front door you will come in is there.
Is here.
Yeah,
The
but I'm-
boiler suits and wet dog door is there.
And we might be able to see it with all the scaffold.
The spatial flow of the building doesn't feel instinctive. Everyone arrives at what is a fixed window. So getting them to actually just think about how people will arrive at their front door, rather than this perverse thing of arriving at a window and being told you have to go around the back of the house to get in, or round into a lobby that someone will use once a year. I quite like this one.
Yeah, I think that looks awful.
Yeah.
I actually think that looks like the garden shed.
You
which
don't
has
like
been
the,
there
the character of this?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
We want something like this.
Yeah.
Even that.
I guess I feel this looks a bit suburban in this context. It's a bit insipid for you. My worry about this is that it won't age well.
Talk to the project manager and the boss, and she will only be all ears.
One of the problems I have with what you have got up on your sample panel, I think it will be quite stark or quite alien in this landscape, quite yellowish. And the idea of using a kind of insipid manufactured product for your cladding fills me with a kind of horror, you know.
It is still timber though, bless it. It's just been treated.
But you don't like the grey, I mean, you can see the grey of the barn behind it. You don't like that grey, do you?
I don't mind it on the barn behind it.
Yes. Why don't you like it on your house?
I just don't like that look. I think it looks too unkempt, maybe.
What about Wrigley tin, like the barn at the top, which is red Wrigley tin?
You just said it, it's a barn.
Why is there a difference between a barn and a house?
Because I'm not going to live in a barn, I'm going to live in a house and a home.
One of the things I love about this house is the fact that the routes through it are really kind of exciting and dynamic and fluid, rather than a series of very rigid geometric corridors that are just at 90 degrees. And what's a delight here is that there's nothing at 90 degrees to one another.
Wow.
This is really just a kind of corridor that links a kitchen with a living room. But by just taking the doors out and just carrying this material through, cranking this open a bit, it feels just so much more special. You know, and you could do this at your place for actually less money than by putting doors in and dividing it up. You'd end up with something that just felt a lot more interesting and special than a conventional corridor.
I like the idea of maybe using some different materials just to create a focal point in my living area, because it is such a big space.
So materials to kind of zone things, transparency, and then double height space. I mean, it's kind of those things, and that's almost all you need to do, really.
I've obviously got a slate roof on part of the house, and I'm just thinking this section above my garage will look absolutely amazing like that. And I prefer to do that instead of rendering as well, so...
It would look fantastic. Much, much nicer than rendering.
Yeah. Really useful. It was a long drive down here, but it's been worthwhile. To walk around, it's absolutely phenomenal. I've got some really good ideas.
Having seen how he's genuinely reacted, I think his mind has been kind of blown, you know, coming to a place like this. I think there's no way he'll just go back to doing conventional things in a conventional manner at his house in Leeds.
I decided definitely going to take this wall out between the two bedrooms. I'm going to start doing a bit of bashing about.
It's quite enjoyable.
Even though this is obviously paid technically for this to be built, it will save me hopefully quite a bit of money by not having to plasterboard it. From the outside, you only have one opportunity to get the right stone or the right type of cladding and spend a bit more on things that will be there for quite a while that you can't change after. I thought, you know, I'd probably spend about 3,000 to 4,000. It's probably cost nearer 6, labour-wise. So obviously I've got my staircase in now.
How much money have you got left to do this interior?
Let me see. £1.50.
I can lend you a couple more.
I've literally just watched every penny.
Yeah.
It's the worst aspect of the whole thing, if I'm honest. It's probably taken a bit of the enjoyment of it. I need to be able to get a mortgage, you know, to pay them back. So that's always in the back of my mind as well.
This is a house by an architect called Stephen Turville here in a beautiful village in Wiltshire. And it's a really great example of how to build in a rural setting while being contemporary, not just mimicking historic architecture, but making something really new that I think fits in really beautifully with this site. There are lots of things about it that the building just does really well. First of all, it picks a really simple form. It's a kind of barn-like building with a pitched roof, and you can sort of see there's minimal detail other than that. No overhanging eaves. It makes it kind of very elementary, but also somehow gives it a relationship to, you know, farm buildings and those kind of big pitched roof buildings we're used to seeing in rural settings. I think for Ruth and Tony, the simple form of this proves that in a rural setting, sometimes it's that kind of elemental feeling that you want. When you look at a building like this, you realise that you know, good design doesn't have to cost the earth. This is a very straightforward piece of construction. It's cladding, insulation, structure behind. That's what Ruth and Tony are going to be doing, and they can take lessons from the beauty and simplicity of the detailing here for their own build.
This is rough sawn, it is rough and ready, there's exposed nails, and it's very kind of imprecise. And for me, that's the language that the building needs to stop it becoming a kind of business park shed. They may hate it, they may think it just looks like a fence, but I think, you know, we've got no choice but to have one last go at convincing them that this is something that could make the house actually look amazing. This is actually very simple, very traditional cladding, which is a chunky, oversized board with a cover strip that's nailed between the boards through to the batten behind.
I'm not sure I like it quite so dark and stripy like
To
that.
be honest, to have it black,
Yeah.
it's a bit too dark.
Sure. But actually, this comes in every colour from clear down to black.
Okay, I want to see some aged timber now, that what it might look like in 10 years' time.
This is 10 years.
This
This is
is
8 years. The house
yes,
is 10 years, this is
fair
8
enough,
years.
which is what I wanted to look at, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
When you look up close, it's still got some colour.
Ruth, where are we?
I am swayed. This has weathered nicely, and it's still quite warm and not too grey.
If we can use something like this, then I'd be more than happy.
But I think we need to shake on it before you change your mind. Good.
That's great. A swayed decision.
The decision has been made. We're definitely going to go with larch. It's nice and chunky, it's quite meaty, and it's a big house, so it'll take it beautifully.
time I came to Shropshire, I was a bit worried that Ruth and Tony's house looked a bit flimsy, you know, as a design. It didn't look like it would withstand much battering, and this is why. If it doesn't work, this weather will find it out right away.
The biggest worry we have now is that we've got this beautifully situated house. We're going to have the outside lovely. What we don't want is people to come in and go, oh, what have they done? Because if they do that, then what's the point? You know, so we need to get this right. This is a once in a lifetime, and that's it. There is no way that I'm going to be building any more houses. For me and Ruth, this is it. This is the swan song for me, I suppose. This is the height.
I've done almost all the costs to date, and it's going to be jolly tight. We're going to go over budget. We have spent so far about 75,000, 75 to 80,000.
I really want to find an interesting alternative to plasterboard, and I want to find an interesting alternative that allows Martin not to have to fix something, then plaster something, then decorate something. What an amazing place. It's so dramatic to see this stuff. I think Martin could use this flat sheet material to line a wall with. It doesn't need finishing, it doesn't need painting, it doesn't need any fire retardant. It's robust, it's beautiful. This is what Martin's bedroom ceiling could look like, and I think that's priceless. It's fantastic. This or Magnolia? What would you choose?
I thought it'd be like plain sheets as opposed to broken down chimneys or something, or whatever it is. It's a bit of an eyesore, isn't it?
It's a bit of a clean-up.
A bit of a clean-up.
Let's have a go at just cleaning it up with this and seeing how it comes up. See, that is quite nice. Yeah, and that's, a minute, so 5 minutes per sheet. If I hold that there, you get a sense now, don't you? I think this wall, if you do it right up to there, would look fantastic in this stuff.
Now we've put the two panels together, obviously we can see it's pretty easy to sand down. I think it could look really good. I think I'd be okay to work out how to put it up as well.
By the time I come and see Martin's house next, I'm hoping that this stuff will be upstairs, beautifully polished, on his wall, fixed in a nice arrangement, looking great.
Hi Martin, boys, how are you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you.
How are you doing?
Yeah, good.
Looks like a building.
Looks great.
I mean, it's an amazing achievement, especially with these expensive materials and so on. You've put a lot of effort yourself into keeping the costs down here.
Yeah, well, when you look at different materials, things like originally I was looking at sort of rendering this wall, etc. You know, by the time you get the labour costs, you know, I managed to slate a lot of that. So I think if you can maybe incorporate and do a bit more yourself, then that's where you manage to save the money. So this is the living room.
This is just great. What an amazing space.
Thank you.
I really like the way that you've embraced the idea of natural materials on the interior. You've really tried to push yourself and get that right. But what a fantastic space this has turned into.
Thank you.
Look at this height and the natural light from all these different directions. It's really beautiful.
It's such a wow factor. I'm really, really, really pleased that I did that, yeah. Probably the best decision I've made so far. You know, I wasn't sure about it probably till the point where I actually put the last couple of pieces on. But now it's on, I absolutely love it. I love the character. And I sort of did it as a bit of a patchwork, which was probably a little bit different from what we originally discussed.
Here it is.
Looking nice at the moment, though, isn't it?
Great.
Yeah,
Cladding
I
is
like
fantastic.
the depth that the cladding has.
The chunkiness, you did well on that.
And the
That
way
was
that it
super.
casts shadow on
Yes,
itself.
it does.
It's
And
nice.
on a really bright, sunny day, it does cast beautiful shadows.
I think it's great.
Why don't we take a look at how we get into this
Yeah,
building? Because
good
Piers, I know
idea.
this is something that you've been concerned
Yeah, well, I
about.
think this is where we should go in.
Here we go.
And I still want to come and find... Oh, there's no door handle, but...
OK, Piers, I'll invite you back again when it's blowing a gale. Let me lead the way.
Oh, this is just great. Just turned out really, really well, hasn't it? These floor-to-ceiling windows. And I think what's working really, really well is the way that these two spaces just fit together, and the kitchen feels really connected to the lounge room without it just all being one space.
It does through flow. That's very important.
Yeah. We've got the best of everything. We've got the views, we've got the light. It just still makes us feel part of our surroundings, which is really great.
We've put our hearts and souls into that. We did it, we're happy.
I would not have built a house with anybody but Ruth. She has been brilliant, you know, and we've done it as a team.
I'm really excited to see what Martin's done and how he's settled into this house, and also how he's finished off bits and pieces. I think what's amazing about self-builders is how much they're prepared to do to realise something out of the ordinary.
Come on. Bobby, come on.
I think in total I borrowed about 80-odd thousand off my parents, which is a hell of a lot of money, I know. Once the house was effectively livable, I was able to get a normal mortgage, but it was easily worth more than what I'd spent on it, and was easily enough to borrow the money to be able to pay mum and dad back, yeah.
This is really an amazing thing to see a year on. The house is so complex, which is not what you'd usually do if you wanted to build a cheap and efficient house. This is a real testament to one man's ambition and one man's ability to just make something happen.
Hello.
Hi, Martin.
Piers.
How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are
Good to see you. Very well. Yeah, this is looking great. Wow. You're not afraid of materials, are you?
Not really, no. It's always felt like a nice space. I felt like I wanted to use some different materials, really, to break it up.
It is really unconventional. And what I love about this is that you've been totally unafraid to try things out, to have a go. There's lots of space, there's lots of top light, there's a real generosity. So actually, you really can go mad, and you have.
Well, thanks.
Let's go look at the bedroom.
Oh, I thought you never asked, Piers.
So you got rid of the metal.
You don't sound surprised, Piers.
The metal was always a sort of way of pushing you to go beyond plasterboard and skim. Really imagine all the other possibilities.
You're not going to tell me off then?
No, the house is so good and so thorough and so competent that it doesn't need the metal.
To be honest, I never really knew what that room was going to be. I've currently split it in two, which is a bedroom at the end, and then I've got this space before the bedroom. Just need to do something a little bit different there, I think. So basically, Piers, this is the last bit of the house that needs finishing off.
So this is a really nice room here, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think I'm worried by what this wall does to that room. This wall is the problem. And instead of
put that wall up.
What's that?
It's only just come up that wall.
I think a bit of it needs to come down and make that a folding bit of wall.
Okay.
Maybe we need to draw it so I can explain with
I
the
think
drawing
so, yeah.
what it means.
Yeah. Piers has basically just come and suggested about ripping out a wall that I've just put in.
This needs to feel like one room.
So I'm going to have to think long and hard, really. So look what Piers has got to draw and hopefully make a decision.
I think proportionally this would work well with, you know, something that allowed you to fold it out of the way when you weren't using it. You know, like a beautiful, big, oversized, industrial folding screen. But I also think that it needs to actually let some of this light into this area here.
Yeah.
That as a zone that can work as one space or two is a million times better with a wall that is A, translucent, and B, folds out the way if you need it. And you can get beautiful translucent polycarbonates that's kind of coloured.
I like the idea of it.
But
There's no but. Not yet.
it's interesting now that we've evolved so little away from this idea of a house with little cellular spaces that really only ever evolved because it was easier to heat a little cellular space than a whole house, particularly in Victorian times. Martin is living here by himself. What's the point of having lots of little bedrooms off a corridor when they could do more? So it's really important to get away from this idea that a room can only ever be used for one activity.
Bobby, I'm going to the fabricators. You stay there. Goodbye. I'm thinking something translucent because the corridor here has got a window in, so I'd like this light to be able to still go into this room, if that makes sense.
Okay. This will give you an idea of how translucent.
All right, yeah, so you can fully see through there, can't you? Have you got a full sheet like sight? I just want to sort of visualise how big the thing might be. It's going to look wild, isn't it? It'd be useful to see that 2 metre height. Because you imagine the corridors like where you are, and this would just be on one length. I think it'll look good.
Yeah.
I like this colour. So like for something like this, are we talking like hundreds of pounds or?
You're probably talking about 250, 300 pounds.
Okay. Are these full sheets then, these ones?
These are just offcuts.
This sounds good. Offcut sounds good. Sounds cheap. Not forever. Because the oven broke down at work, I can't be making pizzas, so when you work for yourself, that even if you miss a couple of days, the money just seems to fall behind. Basically decided to build this screen from timber. I didn't want it to look like too industrial. Ready for me to just do the last bits, put the acrylic sheeting in.
Hi Martin.
Hi Piers, how are you doing?
Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
So I hope you've built a nice screen for me to see.
Oh well, I have not done exactly what we sort of discussed, but I think you'll find it satisfactory.
Good, let's go and have a look.
Yeah, cool.
So this wall is still here, but this is great. I mean, I like it that it's so economical in what it does.
Yeah.
And really clever the way you've stepped it back. And what's curious about when you stand back here is that you don't feel like you're in a corridor lined in plasterboard. This feels like a light-filled space still.
No, I'm really pleased. It just sort of gives this area just a little bit of something that it was lacking before.
Taking this wall down, making something that moved around. I mean, it was probably too elaborate, I mean, it's kind of the architect in me always wanting something that moves and pivots and does, three things.
I think it would look good. It came down to how expensive it was going to be.
So how much did this cost, Martin?
The wood was about £40 and the acrylic was basically offcuts.
Right.
So overall, just over £100 really to do it.
You got something purpose-made for you that hasn't cost the earth and does something far better than a plasterboard wall. And actually, the effect is beautiful. Martin is an ambassador for self-build because he just hasn't stopped innovating and experimenting, and he's not ashamed to just try things out. He's achieved something amazing here, but it isn't just that it's a good house for £100,000. It's an extraordinary house because of how complicated it is, how big it is, how inventive it is.
We suit this house and this house suits us.
We're very happy.
I always said I didn't want to live in a barn, didn't I? I don't feel we are living in a barn. It's a home.
People come here and enjoy it.
Enjoy our company in our house.
Yeah. You want some tips on how to knock a house down and build a new one?
Upstairs is a lot more finished.
I think all the bedrooms are virtually done, but the stairs have got to be the main thing. Welding up the steelwork was a bit tricky, so I had an engineer friend of mine who did all the calculations for the angles, and then our eldest son who was doing a course, and we paid for him extra to do welding lessons, and he told me, "Dad, your welding is rubbish. I'll show you how to do it properly." And it's worked out really well. We're really, really pleased with it.
The area out of the front is unfinished, so I don't like it because it's not very beautiful at the moment. It's like a farmyard, so I would like it to draw the eye a little bit more, complement the house, fit in with the area and be functional.
The design of that is also as important as the design of the house.
So it's got to bring everything together.
As long as Piers don't come up with sheets of wrinkly tin for the porch, I don't mind.
So this is a beautiful space here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's looking super, yes.
My worry with your house is that it's quite an abrupt transition from farmyard and landscape to building. And the one thing I think we need to solve today is how that transition works, from farmyard to house and from house to landscape. So if you look at these decks for a minute, what they're not are things that just hover above the ground. They actually connect the house to the ground. You know, they're part of the ground. And the subtle changes in level from that threshold to here are fantastic. You know, it's a series of generous spaces that almost fray at the edges until they become the garden. And all of these things, because they also face south, are places that you could imagine lingering, having a cup of tea, sitting on the edge, those sorts of things.
It's very similar in some ways to the front of our house.
Yeah.
The front is where we really need some detail. And it does vary because it slopes two ways. It slopes down the drive and away from the house.
So we could do different levels.
So we could do different levels. We could do something like that.
That would be great, actually.
Yeah.
So this is great, isn't it?
Oh, it's lovely.
Wonderful. This is a physical barrier, but it's not a sort of traditional bars or wires or whatever.
Well, it's functional.
And
You could seat loads of people on there.
And also, you know, what's interesting about this is that although it's a very modern house, you can really marry old bits of, you know, there's old bits of planters.
I like old and new,
It fits together very well.
And our house is quite new because it's quite a modern design.
But this is a very modern design,
Yes.
and actually it doesn't feel alien.
No, it's a modern design, but then a modern design doesn't have to be out of place, does it?
Your house needs to do what this building does in a slightly less formal way. And I wonder, what materials do you have maybe lying around or left over?
We've got some of the larch cladding that we got from you left over.
Stone, the old stone from the house, which I salvaged, and there's a great pile in the field.
The local stone, our house is dug out from a sort of purpley, shaly stone. Now, that could be quite nice.
Well, that's your material palette, isn't it?
And it's not going to cost us a load of money, which is part of our...
A bit of time and a bit of DIY.
Yeah.
Let's go and talk about what you could do. Let's go and draw it.
OK,
That's a good
that'd
idea.
be fantastic.
So you have to get a lantern. You have to get one of those old lanterns.
What we could do is, use gabion baskets to kind of bring up the ground, to this point. A gabion is a wire basket that comes flat and you fold it into a kind of box and then you fill it with stone. They're very low-tech, cheap ways of retaining ground. OK, so what we've got is a scheme, I think, where the existing building settles better into its landscape by virtue of one or two really simple things which define entrances. And what that does is make sense of the building and the buildings adjacent to it and the landscape. And it means that when you come in and park, you immediately know there's a front door and a back door.
We're impressed. We're well pleased with it, and we can get going quite quickly, can't we?
Yeah, I was a bit sceptical before we came, but actually, no, I think it's very good. Piers has come good and given us a lot of ideas, and now we can go back, and instead of sitting on the deck, I'll have to do some work. Like the wire.
Which bit?
As long as you're happy, dear.
I'm happy. Is that the same height? Is it level?
Yes, as near as you'll get it.
That's all right, then.
The gabions cost not very much. I think the big one was only about £23, which is nothing really in the great scheme of things.
It's brilliant recycling and using the stone, which will look gorgeous again. Because it's rustic, but it's got some modern elements in the wire, and the house is very modern, so I think it'll all mix in. And it's quite quick. Look, in half a day, we're building a couple of walls. Well, it's not quite as beautiful as your stone wall, but let's face it, it would have taken you weeks to build that.
Probably months, the way I work, yeah.
So I think this is a good solution.
Instant stone walls.
What I'm really hoping to see today is a device to connect the house back into the farm. And it's a really, really important. It's not just important, it's an essential bit of work. Hi, Ruth. Hi, Tony.
Hello, Piers.
How are you doing? Nice to see you. Nice to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Look at this. You've been busy.
We have.
Yeah.
Come and have a look.
So I can really see that this does give you protection.
It's a big difference. Even without a roof or anything, the wind and the rain is held back. And for us inside, it doesn't obscure who's coming because we very craftily used a bit of spare polycarbonate to make like a window.
But this stone and this timber speaks of this place. I mean, look at those barns over there. I mean, that's a comparable palette of materials. I really have a sense of this building being part of this group of buildings.
I guess so. I hadn't really thought of it that way.
And people now know a bit more that the front door is here.
Kind of the marker, really, a bit of place-making, which is what it does. And I think the gabions in particular are just beautiful stuff.
We like it.
It's very easy, very quick, and very effective. And
looks
what you
good.
want.
Aren't they great? Yeah.
Bit of a table out here and sit out here and enjoy a drink.
I think this is really successful.
Couldn't ask for more, could you?
Clearly this is work in progress, but what's exciting is that you don't need to rush it. I mean, you've got a lovely retirement to look forward to of tinkering and pottering and really making things.
Yeah, I think Ruth's fear is that I'm going to get slower now that I've reached 65, and so I have to keep being encouraged, I think is the word.
We've still got a bit to do, come on.
Oh yes, I don't want to stop. I'm not going to stop now, it's not finished. Someone is not going to let the grass grow under my feet.
He'd get bored. I'm going to save him from getting bored, not allow him to stop.
That's what it is, yeah. Keep me going.
When I saw Ruth and Tony's house a year or so ago, it was very much an isolated building that sat perched up on this hillside. Now, what's really good is that it's taking on the characteristics of this place and the new things that they've done. They're really connecting the building back into this landscape. I mean, this house is rich with life and character, and it's amazing to see how friendly a contemporary piece of architecture can really be.